How's it going, folks? And welcome back to part 3 and the final part of Pep Guardiola versus Jurgen Klopp at identical non-league clubs. Last episode we completed 10 years of this simulation. Today we have the final 5. Pep's in League 1. Klopp's just stuck in the National League doing his thing. Let's get straight into this. Just a little reminder, we are on the road to 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. The plan going forward here on the channel is to have a new experiment drop every Sunday, and around 50% of those will have multiple parts to them that run into the following week. I know you guys have really been enjoying this kind of content. To be honest, I've been having a hell of a lot of fun making it. But alas, let's cast our eyes to League 1 and Pep Guardiola's side in the relegation zone. They've got 50 points. It was a crazily close table, actually, looking at League 1 here. Sadly, this whole celebration, this jovial mood I was in after they won the league in Part 2 to wrap things up, has kind of just ended. Because, yeah, they finished 21st. They're in the relegation zone. They were 3 points away from safety. It's just not gone to plan. In terms of their tactical approach, Pep stuck with the 4-3-3. That is his preferred formation. It seems to be the one he's just used throughout his time here at the club. In terms of transfers, they did not spend a great deal of money. They did lose quite a few players here. A lot of players being kind of let go, a fair few loaned out as well. Yeah, I mean, who was their key player this year? In terms of average rating, it was Michael Friel, who actually is a permanent signing of those. They picked him up on a free from Villa. He looked like the kind of player who might be of the quality where they've loaned him in. But no, they've managed to sign him permanently. But he was the rare kind of bright spot in their team. Performance-wise, how did they get on during the league season? That is a lot of red, isn't it? And a lot of yellow. They had an okay end to the season, but it just wasn't enough. It was too little too late. And, well, they've just gone straight back down, and I feel sad about it. I feel like a lot of Pep's success can be chalked down to how much the ball his team have, although this year they were very middle of the pack. 50% of the ball, they completed a decent number of passes, to be fair, and had a good pass completion. Was this just a case of them not creating enough, I wonder? Of course, they massively overperformed their XG last year. This year, they actually had an XG of 60, which is pretty respectable relative to the rest of the league. They didn't get anywhere near that amount of goals. And in terms of expected goals against, they were kind of middle of the road there. Again, I feel like he's got a little unlucky, dare I say. I mean, in terms of defences, they didn't have the worst defence in the league by any means, and they certainly didn't have the worst attack ever. Looks like really they just drew too many games and just struggled to get critical wins that they really, really needed. 12 wins, 14 draws. They drew more games than they won. Yeah, that's always going to, well, not set you up for a whole lot of success. And whilst I wasn't expecting him to get into the Championship, I must say I am a little bit surprised to see Pep immediately relegated. I suppose the inevitable question now is, how's Klopp doing? Has he managed to get promoted? They finished second in the Vanarama National League. That's promising. That isn't an automatic promotion spot, of course. Did they go up? Oh, they're in the playoff final. Well, this is awkward. So just as a refresher, the way I do these videos is I holiday forward indefinitely, and then I have yearly autosaves on. The autosave on this occasion has coincided with, well, before the playoff final. But I know a man who might be able to help us out. Let me just give him a ring. I took a trip to the year 3000. Most our hits went multi-platinum. Hello? Is that Future Jack? Yeah, this is Future Jack. Yeah, mate, it's just me. Past Jack. How you doing? I need a football result from you. You know the rules of time travel, mate. I can't tell you what happens in the future because you will gamble on it. No, I'm not going to be gambling on the game. No, it's not for nefarious reasons. Did Klopp's team win the playoff final in the National League? I mean, if it's not for gambling, I guess, yeah, they won the game. They did win the game. I mean, that's bloody brilliant. Well, that's all I needed, mate. I don't suppose you can tell me who wins the Ballon d'Or in 2022, can you? Is it Lewandowski's year, right? Sorry, mate, I got to go. I've got the 21-35 European Super League final with Boreham Wood. No, got to go. Take care. Bye. He's hung up on me. So I can confirm that Klopp's team do win the playoff in this year, looking at how they did in the league season, they did very, very well. 78 points, a second-placed finish. Is that better than what Pep managed during his time at Dover in this league? I think it is. Of course, 2 7th-placed finishes kind of preceding this. I'm now wondering what their season preview kind of expectation was. Okay, they were predicted to finish 3rd in the league. I guess Jurgen has built up a decent little squad here. I'm now wondering, of all these players who have kind of the white names, are any of them actually his players? From the looks of things, they're not. He's not got any players in the Media Dream 11. I guess he's just got a very well-rounded team. And while looking at things here, it looks like Dave Allen should be given a fair amount of credit. 17 goals he scored in the league for Klopp's Dover. He's been at the club a couple of years, got a lot of goals last season as well. Have to imagine he's a big kind of proponent of their success. Looking at their squad, they've got a lot of injuries. I did see they had the most injuries in the league. They have still got this ridiculous oversized squad, which has just been a hallmark of Klopp's side here at Dover, where he just has far too many players. But I guess with the high-intensity pressing style of play, they're going to pick up injuries, and so this big squad is needed. Other players who performed well, Frankie Whelan, standout performer at centre-back. He was signed a couple of years ago as well. Worth noting that the few players that we've clicked on here who seem to have performed well joined the club 2 years ago when they first kind of got that first 7th-placed finish and reached the playoffs for the first time. Yeah, Frankie Whelan looks good. Elsewhere, Dylan Stevenson does not look too bad either. He was picked up on a free this year, averaged at a 7.2 rating. Kind of crazy that he was playing for Accrington Stanley in League One and he dropped down to the National League. But yeah, it looks like Klopp's made some pretty shrewd signings over the last few years. So assuming that future Jack hasn't lied to me, Klopp's going to be in the same division as Pep for the first time in a little while. The first time they're going to do battle in the Football League. We're going to go forward to 2033. And let's see how they're shaping up against one another, shall we? Well, good news, everyone. Future Jack didn't lie to me. When I asked him for some tips on my accumulator previously last weekend, he did lie to me about who won. But in this instance, he's not failed us. Jurgen Klopp did manage to win the playoff final against Fleetwood. You can see the match here. It was an incredibly tight and even game. In the end, the 2 early goals scored for Dover were the difference makers. And also, Ashby Hammond in goal had a very, very good game for them. Looks like he was a big part of their success. Again, another player who was signed a few years ago during Jurgen Klopp's recent upturn. Looks like this year, with them being in the Football League, he's not played as much. But the big question is, how have Pep and Klopp's Dovers done? Who has finished higher? It's been a long time since we've seen Klopp above Pep. Is today the day? It is. It actually is. Wow. Okay, Jurgen Klopp's team finished 12th. Pep's team finished 20th, which is a newly relegated team. To avoid the drop that narrowly, that's got to be a little bit scary for the last couple of years here in terms of what Pep can do. Looking at the pre-season prediction, you can see here the odds for both teams. Very, very similar to one another. It's kind of bizarre that we're now 12 years into this and still the teams, at least in this year, have kind of come to a point where they are evenly matched again alongside one another. I think we'll look at Klopp's season first because as a newly promoted team, there were some maybe slightly lesser expectations. In terms of how they got on in the league, it looks like they got off to a really, really rough start. They did not win in the first month of the season and then they beat Pep's side and everything changed. It turned their fortunes around. They won this game 1-0 away from home, completely against the run of play. Pep's team dominating possession as we've come to expect. But despite some pretty good performances by Pep's centre-backs, it was Klopp's team that came out on top. Effiong was the man who grabbed the goal for them, a new signing this season who played 21 games, didn't play very well in them. And after that win in September, they strung together a really, really good run of form. Didn't, from the looks of it, go on a massive cup run. In the end, they got knocked out in the FA Cup third round. But he got the double over Pep this year. A 4-1 win for Jurgen Klopp's men, completely against the run of play again. It looks like Jurgen Klopp's team just are very good at FMing Pep. And I'm kind of surprised to see that amount of goals scored. The fact that Pep Guardiola's goalkeeper got a 5.1 rating. I mean, I don't want to blame anyone in particular. I'm going to attribute some of the blame to this guy. So Klopp's team did well in terms of how Pep's team did. They had a pretty rough season all in all. It's not even like there was a run of games where they played particularly well. Maybe the start of February where they went 4 unbeaten was a bright spot. They had a horrific run of form over the festive period with, to be fair, a tricky run of away games. But yeah, really, really struggled this year, which is a newly relegated team. is a tad bit surprising. In terms of transfers, Pep brought in a lot of new men and, well, frankly, doesn't really seem to have worked for them. But there's one man I need to just check up on. Rondelli Goodridge. He's still here. He's still vibing away. What I would say is the last 2 seasons, not been as good as the previous years, the Barbadian. Meanwhile, over at Klopp FC, they did actually spend a little bit more money. £51,000 spent, £35,500 made in sales. What I'm actually a little bit interested to look at is the salaries per year of either team. If we look at Pep's over here, their salary per year is 1.21 million. Klopp has a much bigger squad, so I'm expecting his to cost more. And it does cost slightly more at £1.35 million. So Jurgen, perhaps spending a tiny bit more money, but not a great deal in it, to be honest. I'm pretty excited now to see how the two managers do, both in League Two, both in the same division as one another for a second successive season. How are they going to get on? Of course, there is 4 promotion spots in League Two. There's lots of ways to get out, 2 relegation spots as well. I want to believe they're both going to be able to, I don't know, steady the ship over the next few years that they've still got in charge of the teams. And well, we're only going to find that out by going forward. So let's do exactly that. 2034, we're coming for you. Pep v Klopp, Mark II, Electric Boogaloo. Now, I know what you're thinking, Jack. That freestyle was pretty sweet. Was that all done off the cuff? Of course it was. I don't write my lyrics. I just freestyle, folks. Just like Klopp's freestyled out the Football League. What's happened here? Pep's team have managed to get into the playoffs, and then they've lost to QPR, who happen to be down here all these years in the future. Jurgen, what's happened? I mean, what was the pre-season expectations for either team here? So Pep's team predicted to finish 11th. Klopp's team down in 20th this season. Pep actually has some of the best players in the league. We'll take a look at those in a moment. I need to go find out what Jurgen's been doing. Jurgen, how are you, mate? Can't see a future for himself at the club. Who wants to break it to him that he's got 2 more seasons that he has to do? I'm sorry, Jurgen. I know. 2 more years and then I'll let you free. So going into this season, Klopp did release a decent amount of players, and then when it came to actual transfers, only made 1 new addition to the team. That usually doesn't bode that well. I do wonder, are they having some financial problems again? Looks like they might be. Financial status is insecure. I wonder if that's caused them some issues this year. If you're wondering about landmarks and stuff, here's what's been happening. There's not been loads of new stadiums built or training facilities worked on. Oh, Jurgen, I really thought he was going to do well. I really thought they'd bounce back. I mean, look at that. Oh, my word. The second half of the season, they just could not score any goals. They just drew so many matches one after another. Looks like in the first half of the season, where things perhaps went slightly better, Dylan Stevenson was the man they relied on for a lot of goals. So when he slowed down the goal scoring, they were in trouble. I mean, he's still got a ridiculously oversized squad. Another player who did quite well was Ed Mallion, who's another striker. When did they sign this guy? A few years ago for 7k. He scored 14 goals last year, only 11 this season. And the bad news is he's on his way out the club. And Dylan Stevenson, who was the top goal scorer, has already agreed to leave. Yeah, things not looking too good for the future of Klopp Stover. They only managed 44 goals in 46 games. That was the lowest in the division. Defensively, they also conceded 75, which wasn't the worst, but it was one of the worst, and combined with their inability to score, just meant that they really struggled. As for Pep's team, they finished in 6th, and I noticed here they've got a few key players that I feel like we should have a look at. The first, Fernando Giorni, who's on loan from Man City. Have they really just loaned a load of players from Pep? Are you allowed to do this? Do you still have phone numbers for people at Man City? I mean, apparently he does. This guy is absolutely ridiculous. He got 4 goals and 10 assists as a defender. That's not too shabby. The other man they have is Michael Friel, who is 21 years old. This is the guy who we saw them pick up a couple of years ago who looked good in League One. He's still a very, very good performer for them. Sadly, his heroics weren't enough because, well, they lost in the playoffs. If we just have a look at things here, I want to look at it reversed by date. Yeah, they got knocked out to Warsaw. They lost 3-2 on aggregate. The first leg was a 1-1 draw where they took the lead, but then it slipped away. And then in the away game, I mean, Warsaw had a man sent off in the 21st minute. It went to extra time, and they bottled it. I mean, looking at this, Warsaw went down a man. Pep's team got a goal back before half-time, and then they just couldn't do anything. Within a few minutes of extra time starting, Ahin scored, and, well, that was all she wrote. A game devoid of any quality, no one really having that many shots on goal. Wilcox in goal for Pep's team looks absolutely tragic. Apparently he played 16 games for them this year, which is a concern. He is awful. He got an awful rating. Pep has been let down by his goalkeepers here on a consistent basis. I wonder if he'll learn his lesson. Friel, by the way, highest average rating in the league is 7.35 for Pep's man. You have to imagine he's going to be a big part of their team going forward if they do want to make it out of League Two once again. And, well, with that in mind, we've got to go forward. 2 more years left. Pep's team doing well. Klopp back where he belongs. It was good while it lasted watching them in League Two. Let's see what they can go and do, well, next year. I'm a bit scared to click on Klopp's over here and see how badly things are going for them. Relegated to the National League. Did they bounce back immediately? They finished 6th. That is a playoff spot. Did they manage to win the playoffs? They're in the final again. One moment. Hi, mate. Only me again. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's a good job you don't charge by the hour, or this would be awkward. Just wondering, 2035, Klopp Stover, playoff final. Do they win? They lose 3-2. Can you tell me a bit about the game? Okay, so 2-2, went to extra time, and then they bottled it, and it was a really poor performance by the goalkeeper. Okay, no, that's perfect, mate. That's all the details I need. No, won't be using this in the video. Don't be so ridiculous. I'm not an amateur like that. So I can confirm Klopp's team bottled the final. Thank you, Future Jack, once again. In terms of the season preview, where weren't they predicted to finish? Well, they were predicted to finish 8th, so they've done rather well, I suppose, to get as high as they did in finishing 6th. I'm now wondering, did the takeover go through? It did. It was a promotion from within. How has that left their finances? They're still financially insecure. Apparently the media prediction at the start of the year was 3rd, so maybe they did underperform slightly. Their key man, by the way, Eddie McNeil, their goalkeeper, in on loan from Swansea, the man who let them down in the final. As for the rest of Klopp's transfer business, lots of wheeling and dealing. Players sold for, well, pretty significant sums of money in some cases. Jerry Brennan to Wrexham, the biggest of the sales that they did. But on the whole, yeah, £250,000 made is not a small amount of, well, money for a team at this level. And the players they brought in, lots of frees, a fair few loans. Looks like they just didn't quite have that quality to continue, an upwards charge and get promoted back at the first time of asking. Tactically, sound like a broken record. Klopp played his 4-3-3 again. It appears that in Football Manager, for the most part, the managers just play their preferred formation and their preferred tactical style. They're not influenced by the other staff at the club. It is entirely down to their own preferences. Klopp, you would have thought maybe after 13 years, or 14 years even, would be rethinking his plan. No, still sticking with it, even age 68. You can't make an old man change. As for Pep Stover, they finished 13th. Oh, Pep, what happened? I say what happened. 13th is kind of respectable. They finished a little bit off the pace of the teams in the playoffs, but nowhere near the drop zone. Their pre-season prediction, if we just look at things, was 6th. So they definitely underperformed a tad this year. Financially, they're in okay financial status. They've been run much better than Klopp's team, who, well, he's just run into the ground. In terms of their transfers, their key man has been sold. Michael Friel had the highest average rating last year. They sold him to Millwall in the Championship for $350,000. I mean, look, good average rating in the Championship, and I think he's probably been the missing piece of the puzzle for Pep's side. They did look to reinvest that money, but it looks like they kind of spread it thinly across a number of different players. They just couldn't get promoted back to League One. I feel like they're now just destined to be stuck in League Two for this final year. I just feel sad. I really thought that one of these managers would prove their calibre, and I suppose to an extent Pep did by getting to League One and establishing them, it seems, as a Dover side. I say all of that. Maybe we shouldn't speak too soon. There is one more year left before the managers swap. Of course, when they swap teams and Klopp goes to Pep Stover and Pep goes to Klopp Stover, they can be sacked. We'll see how long they last in either job. But before we do that, one final year to go to, the 15-year mark. Where are we going to be leaving things? We've reached the end, everyone. 2036, 15 years played. Klopp couldn't get promoted in his final year, but to be fair, They did finish 6th, which is pretty respectable. Their pre-season prediction was 7th, so he exceeded expectations in his final year, in his swan song. I did notice that Wyn Jones for Klopp Stover has the most player of the matches of any player in the division, 21 years old, in on loan from Sunderland. Looks like he's been a pretty good addition to their team this year. Looking at their schedule, looks like they've not lost too many games. They made themselves just difficult to beat all the way until the end of the year where they lost a load of games. But on the whole, they've done well. It's interesting to note that whenever there's been a tough run of games, Klopp's team seem to just run into issues where their form does drop off. I have also noticed, just as we've been playing, in the injury tables at the end of every year, you might have caught it, Klopp's team always seem to be at the top of things. I do feel like his pressing style of football, especially with how it's been tweaked in Football Manager this year, is just less effective with lesser quality players, and the injuries start to kind of rack up, and that certainly hinders them come the end of the year. The team haven't had a takeover, so they're still financially insecure. Pep's going to have quite a job to solve things. You might have also noticed under the key players, Klopp just isn't here anymore. He's vanished because he's about to leave. So as you can see here, Klopp resigned at the end of the year, knowing that he's got this impending move to Pep Stover. I mean, he looks very keen to move. Has Pep done something magical? Is that why Jurgen's so keen to go over to them? And, looking at things here, they finished 12th as well. Similar situation, by the way. Pep Guardiola just kind of resigned at the start of June once the season was over. 12th is respectable, I suppose, in League 2. Let's give Pep some credit. It's not too bad. Media prediction looks like at the end of the year it was 7th. At the start of the year, it was 10th. By the way, Rondelli Goodridge, just a final checkup, 30 years old. He's still at the club. What a loyal servant he's been over the years. In fact, he had a very good most recent year. But for both managers kind of finishing middle of the pack, in Pep's case, they had another kind of slightly luxurious loan signing, shall we say. They had Elcinio here, who is a Brazilian player. They've managed to get some nut South Americans in on loan of Pep Stover. I feel like he's been using his phone book to call up different managers to make moves. Unfortunately, the moves he made this year couldn't see them push on that little bit further, and in the end, they've kind of ended up finishing middle of the pack. If we just look at the stages, did they get a lot of goals or a lot of, goals conceded or a good defence? No, they were just average at everything. In fact, 17 wins, 12 draws, 17 losses, and -1 goal difference. It was literally the definition of an average of most average seasons, just at the middle of the table, won as many as they lost, drew a certain amount as well, and, not the most exciting year, I will be honest. I mean, Klopp's let us down, really, hasn't he, in the playoffs? And I realise, I talked about Klopp's finishing the fact he wasn't in the playoff final. They lost, as you can see here, to Barrow. Bit embarrassing, really. So there you have it. Pep's better than Klopp at a non-league club. Definitive proof. It may never happen in real life, but Football Manager has proven it scientifically beyond refute. Kind of. Right, you know what? These managers are about to swap teams. We're going to go forward a little bit. I don't know when I'm going to be back. It might be a different day for me. I'm going to go and see how they get on at each other's teams. I feel like they're both going to retire pretty soon, but it'll be interesting at least to see how they kind of fare when they swap boots. So, let's go forward and find out, shall we? It's not a great sign. I've gone forward 1 year, and Pep's Dover Athletic have got a job advert out. Did they sack Jurgen, or did he resign, or did he retire? He was he was sacked on a couple of days before New Year's Eve. After 180 days, he was gone. And then they sacked the replacement manager at the end of the year. How badly did it go for Pep Stover? So they finished 14th. I mean, that feels kind of respectable. Compared to previous years, that's like not a million miles away from where they were. In terms of at the point where they sacked Klopp, they were down in 17th, which I guess is kind of disappointing. He got them as high as 4th. I now do wonder how soon Pep would have got sacked in his old position at Dover. I feel like he might have been let go kind of soon. Either way, Klopp didn't last long at all. I'm curious, did he sign a load of players to get the squad up to the size that he desires? Looking at it, they made a few signings, but not an obscene amount by any means. And, this half of the experiment's done. How's Pep got on at Klopp's team? I'm now wondering. I have also just noticed down in the bottom corner, before we leave Pep Stover for good, Pep Guardiola, legend. Is he going to make himself into a legend at Klopp's team? I mean, the good news is he's still in the job and he's actually got a contract for another 2 years. And they finished 6th. Pep, did you get him promoted? No. He's continued the Jurgen Klopp legacy, everyone, of bottling it in playoffs. They lost in the playoff final after extra time. Oh, Pep. I'm curious now. How did he do in terms of possession? Did he stamp his style of play on the team? He did to an extent. They had 52% of the ball. What was their preseason prediction? 12th. You know what? Pep did very well in Jurgen Klopp's shoes. I'll give him credit. You know, if any of you were thinking maybe somehow Pep's team was easier to manage, I don't know. Klopp got fired right away, and Pep at Klopp's team has actually done reasonably well. You know what, Pep? I question your managerial ability in Football Manager by the amount of times I see you get sacked to Man City. But if you ever want to have a long-term job, just make yourself manager of a team for 15 years. I think he'll fare okay. You know what? I could go further into the future to see how Pep does at Klopp Stover, but I've had enough. As a self-proclaimed Klopp fanboy, I've not enjoyed the last 3 videos, but it's been interesting to see it play out. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. As I say with all of these videos, if you've got your own idea for an experiment video like this one, something that you would like to see, do leave them down in the comments. I do read the comments. I do note down the ideas that I see that get thumbs up. There will be a new experiment starting on Sunday. I'm trying to get into a bit of a kind of routine with these experiment uploads, whereby every Sunday evening after the football, you can come on YouTube and there'll be a new experiment kicking off. And it might be one like this that has a few parts. It might be a singular video, and then we'll throw in a bonus one in the middle of the week. Still kind of trying to work out a routine, I suppose, for these videos. But given how popular they've been, I want to make them a more regular part of the content strategy here on the YouTube channel. Don't worry, though. I've got a few slightly different ones coming up that aren't quite what we've done so far over the last few weeks. If you've enjoyed today's video, as always, do drop a like on it. It helps me out massively. Take care. I'll see you on Sunday for more of this, or maybe tomorrow for the Newcastle Let's Play if you've been watching that. And well, until next time, it is me, Jack, and I'll see you all in a bit. I'm out.